A single event would unite athletes from every corner of the globe, capturing the hearts and minds of millions. The foundations began in ancient Greece, with the powerful spirit of competition sparking an extraordinary story of athletic excellence and international unity. The Olympic Games have showcased the greatest stories of human triumph, but also revealed the darkest sides of humanity. From their revival over a century ago, the Olympics ventured into diverse cultures, creating historic moments of unity and rivalry. But how did an event that brought together the best from every continent face controversies and challenges? We must start from the beginning. Just how far back in history organized athletic contests were held remains a matter of debate, but it is reasonably certain that they occurred in Greece almost 3,000 years ago. However ancient in origin, by the end of the 6th century BCCE, at least 4 Greek sporting festivals, sometimes called classical games, had achieved major importance. The Olympic Games, held at Olympia, the Pythian Games at Delphi, the Nemean Games at Nemea, and the Isthmian Games, held near Corinth. Later, similar festivals were held in nearly 150 cities as far afield as Rome, Naples, Odysseus, Antioch, and Alexandria. Of all the games held throughout Greece, the Olympic Games were the most famous. Held every 4 years between August 6th and September 19th, they occupied such an important place in Greek history that in late antiquity, historians measured time by the interval between them, an Olympiad. The Olympic Games, like almost all Greek games, were an intrinsic part of a religious festival. They were held in honor of Zeus at Olympia by the city-state of Elis in the northwestern Peloponnese. The first Olympic champion listed in the records was Coroebus of Elis, a cook, who won the sprint race in 776 BCE. Notions that the Olympics began much earlier than 776 BCE are founded on myth, not historical evidence. According to one legend, for example, the games were founded by Heracles, son of Zeus and Alcmene. At the meeting in 776 BCE, there was apparently only one event, a foot race that covered one length of the track at Olympia, but other events were added over the ensuing decades. The race, known as the stade, was about 192 meters, 210 yards long. The word stade also came to refer to the track on which the race was held and is the origin of the modern English word stadium. In 724 BCE, a 2-length race, the dialos, roughly similar to the 400-meter race, was included. And 4 years later, the dolikos, a long-distance race possibly comparable to the modern 1,500 or 5,000-meter events, was added. Wrestling and the pentathlon were introduced in 708 BCE. The latter was an all-around competition consisting of 5 events: the long jump, the javelin throw, the discus throw, a foot race, and wrestling. Boxing was introduced in 688 BCE and chariot racing 8 years later. In 648 BCE, the pancratium, from Greek pankration, a kind of no-holds-barred combat, was included. This brutal contest combined wrestling, boxing, and street fighting. Kicking and hitting a downed opponent were allowed. Only biting and gouging, thrusting a finger or thumb into an opponent's eye, were forbidden. Between 632 and 616 BCE, events for boys were introduced, and from time to time, further events were added, including a foot race in which athletes ran in partial armor, and contests for heralds and for trumpeters. The program, however, was not nearly so varied as that of the modern Olympics. There were neither team games nor ball games, and the athletics, track and field, events were limited to the 4 running events and the pentathlon mentioned above. Chariot races and horse racing, which became part of the ancient games, were held in the hippodrome south of the stadium. In the early centuries of Olympic competition, all the contests took place on one day. Later, the games were spread over 4 days, with a 5th devoted to the closing ceremony, presentation of prizes, and a banquet for the champions. In most events, the athletes participated in the nude. Through the centuries, scholars have sought to explain this practice. Theories have ranged from the eccentric, to be nude in public without an erection demonstrated self-control, to the usual anthropological, religious, and social explanations, including the following. 1. Nudity bespeaks a rite of passage. 2. Nudity was a holdover from the days of hunting and gathering. 3. Nudity had, for the Greeks, a magical power to ward off harm. And 4. Public nudity was a kind of costume of the upper class. Historians grasp at dubious theories because in Judeo-Christian society, to compete nude in public seems odd, if not scandalous. Yet ancient Greeks found nothing shameful about nudity, especially male nudity. Therefore, the many modern explanations of Greek athletic nudity are in the main unnecessary. The Olympic Games were technically restricted to freeborn Greeks. Many Greek competitors came from the Greek colonies on the Italian peninsula and in Asia Minor and Africa. Most of the participants were professionals who trained full-time for the events. These athletes earned substantial prizes for winning at many other preliminary festivals. And although the only prize at Olympia was a wreath or garland, an Olympic champion also received widespread adulation and often lavish benefits from his home city. Although there were no women's events in the ancient Olympics, several women appear in the official lists of Olympic victors as the owners of the stables of some victorious chariot entries. In Sparta, girls and young women did practice and compete locally. But apart from Sparta, contests for young Greek women were very rare and probably limited to an annual local foot race. At Olympia, however, the Heraean festival, held every 4 years in honor of the goddess Hera, included a race for young women who were divided into 3 age groups. Yet the Heraean race was not part of the Olympics. They took place at another time of the year and probably was not instituted before the advent of the Roman Empire. Then for a brief period, girls competed at a few other important athletic venues. The 2nd century CE traveler Pausanias wrote that women were banned from Olympia during the actual games under penalty of death. Yet he also remarked that the law and penalty had never been invoked. His account later incongruously stated that unmarried women were allowed as Olympic spectators. Many historians believe that a later scribe simply made an error copying this passage of Pausanias' text here. Nonetheless, the notion that all or only married women were banned from the games endured in popular writing on the topic, though the evidence regarding women as spectators remains unclear. Historians suggest the flame was born in a temple erected by the ancient Greeks to honor Hera, powerful queen of the mythological gods. Her shrine stands in the home of the Olympic Games of antiquity, a cypress-shaded archaeological site in Olympia, where the first recorded games were held in 776 BC. The ancient Greeks kindled the flame using a scaphia, a type of crucible, which was positioned facing the sun. The sun's rays were concentrated there and set fire to the dry grass. Use of a parabolic mirror is directly inspired by this ancient ceremony. The high priestess kindles the flame, assisted by Vestals, who are the only people authorized to enter the sanctuary area. The flame is then carried to the site of the public ceremony and handed to the first runner. This initial runner first carries the flame to the foot of the monument in which the heart of Baron de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympic movement, is interred. From Olympia, the flame is carried across Greece to Athens, and in a ceremony at the Panathenaic Stadium, the flame is handed over to the host committee for the games that begin the new Olympiad.